There's a row we must talk about involving the boss of Britain's biggest police force. A Jewish campaigner has called for the Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley to resign or be sacked after an officer described him as openly Jewish at a pro-Palestinian march in London. So let's first look at the actual incident.
If I could ask you to stay there, please. Thank you very much. I know, I have heard you.
I don't want to stay here, I want to leave.
Well, in that case, sir,
And I'm going that way.
when the crowd is gone, I will happily escort you out.
I'm going to walk. No, I don't think that. There's no place.
No, sir. I don't want anybody antagonising anything. Yeah, and at the moment, sir, you are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to your presence.
Can you see what's going on there, Ali?
Yes, I think a police officer is trying to keep a member of the public who happens to be Jewish safe. Now, there are clearly are deep concerns amongst the Jewish community about the ability to go around cities of this country peacefully. That is a serious issue. And you've seen the Community Security Trust notice an increase of 600% almost in anti-Semitic incidents year on year. So this is a serious problem. But in this particular case, I think that the police officer was trying to do his best to protect a member of the Jewish community from getting involved in a potential situation. A potential situation. It's a bit like me going in Pakistani attire, shalwar kameez, to an English Defence League march and wanting to walk right across it. Now, the police have to make judgment calls about public order.
Is that right? I mean, I think it's the phrase where he says you are openly Jewish. And by the way, the gentleman is called Gideon Falter, who's the head of the campaign against anti-Semitism.
What's wrong with the term openly Jewish?
That's what's caused everyone to get very angry.
I think it was
being Jewish is an attitude rather than.
I think it was to do with
provocative.
Well, I think that's
the provocative language.
It's careless language.
Yeah,
I just don't think the police officer meant that. I think the police officer was trying to protect that man, who, by the way, isn't just a random person walking through. This guy is a very, he's a well-known lobbyist for Israel. I'm sorry, but I think there was an agenda as to why he was doing it. And also, we did see that in another clip where the officer did say to him, "Look, I've seen that you left the pavement and you've walked against the march," almost as if he was trying to do something.
So just to say a bit more on this, his name, as I say, is Gideon Falter. He is head of the campaign against anti-Semitism, and he then said that Mark Rowley, the head of the Met, should be sacked because the police were basically enforcing a Jew-free zone in central London. Have a listen.
We've heard also very little from the actual commissioner at the moment, Sir Mark Rowley. The time has come for him to go. He's had 6 months to sort this out. He hasn't done it. He needs to go. If he doesn't resign, he needs to be replaced by the mayor and the Home Secretary. And we need a commissioner who is going to come in and say, look, enough. These marches cannot happen every single week anymore. If there is lawlessness on these marches, we will bring it under control and we will make it safe for absolutely everybody to walk on London's streets if that's what they wish to do.
Yeah, so he says he wasn't trying to inflame anybody, he was just leaving the synagogue. Yeah. Ali?
Well, I think it's actually the bigger issue here is do people want to see these marches closed down? I think that is what the subtext is. We know that Suella Braverman has regarded them and described them as hate marches. We know that Robert Jenrick's not a fan either. The thing is, the police have got a very difficult job to do. I'm deeply uncomfortable with chants, for example, like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Because to me, that is deeply offensive to a lot of Jewish people because they would interpret it as a call for the eradication of the state of Israel. So I certainly, if I was on a march and I haven't been on one, would not chant that because I think it's deeply offensive. But it's not illegal under the law. Now, if the government wants to change the law to outlaw certain phrases, then they should do that. But they haven't done that. So what they're trying to do here is hide behind the police and say, well, you're not policing this properly. The streets have been lost control because Sadiq Khan's supposedly a Muslim, which is what Lee Anderson said. It's ridiculous. Look, the only issue, in my view, that the police could have done better was not calling him openly Jew. That was, in my view, not a problem. It was the statement that they put out saying that this was provocative. And the use of the word provocative was language that could have been used in a different way.
Okay.
Better language.
Downing Street got involved. Rishi Sunak is now said to be appalled by the incident. The former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has joined the calls for the Met Commissioner to resign.
I'm sorry.
Go on, Marina, yeah.
Because if that police officer hadn't stepped in, right? If he hadn't used his common sense and something had kicked off and Gideon found himself in hospital, that should not happen, of course it shouldn't, but then there would have been a dereliction of duty. That's the police officer's, it's his duty to, first and foremost, preserve the safety of the public. And the other thing I want to call out is just look at the contrast, right? Suella Braverman now calling for Rowley to quit. And yet, after the killing of Chris Carber, remember Chris Carber, who was, I believe, unarmed, she came out and said, armed police must not fear ending up in the dock. Can we just have a look at the difference? Right, she wasn't calling for the commissioner to, but
it's a very big stretch that between one and the
I
other.
just think asking for him to quit now because of this is absolutely ridiculous.
You know, look, I think it's an interesting one because when I've discussed this with a number of people, they've said, look, if the police can't guarantee safety, the marches should be closed down. That's a bit like saying that if two sets of football supporters, right, are mingling, the police could guarantee every single footballer supporter's safety. Of course, they manage the public order events.
You raise a very interesting point there, whether there is a football analogy here, because the problem comes when the police officer sees this guy wearing the kippah, as it's called, which means he's just been at synagogue, and he says, basically, you're wearing the other team's colours. That's essentially what he's saying.
You could argue that the police officer should have not assumed that Gideon Falter was pro the Israeli government.
I think you're right.
Right?
I think that's the problem.
And the argument made is that there are Jewish people who do go on these marches in solidarity with people who are pro-Palestine.
I don't see why the officer doesn't just let him go through. I mean, that's the risk is on him, and as you rightly say, there are Jewish people on those marches. So
the problem is you're going to have idiots on those marches. Most of the people, I'd imagine, I've got friends that go there, bring their kids because they just want to see an end to suffering, right? But you will have people who will be provoked, wrongly provoked by that man, and so the guy's just like if it were a football team, he's just doing his best to uphold the peace.
I don't know. So Mark Rowley has said the Met is determined to ensure everyone feels safe in London, but acknowledged some officers' actions had increased people's concerns. You remember there was again, it's police being filmed 24/7, so you see interactions that maybe they weren't intending for you to see. And the one that happened about a week or two ago was a woman saying, "There's somebody over there flying a swastika. Surely that's illegal." And he said, "Well, it has to be seen in context." So that was another police gaffe.
Ridiculous.
That is a gaffe because, look, anyone who's like wearing pictures of Hamas paragliders on their jackets, I mean, this is deeply, deeply offensive. It's illegal. It's incitement of, it's glorifying terrorism. So that's an offence. It's an offence, and they should be arrested and they should be prosecuted and tried.